Welcome to HearthCo's video training presentations. This is the first in the series. It's called Terminology, and it's to teach you some of the common terms and what things are identified by, what we call things, what other people do, in an attempt to help you better design your mantle and surround. This is just a reminder that HearthCo's been an industry leader for over 20 years, supplying cast stone mantels to the construction industry, including all of the major home builders on the West Coast. So the goal is to familiarize you with terms and components, to enable you to select the HearthCo products that work best for your application, and to help you communicate with the people at HearthCo. Okay, starting at the top and working down. At the very top, you'll see the word cap. It's a Dublin cap that it's pictured on, and then further down the word cap applies again, and that is to a pinnacle cap. It doesn't matter what model it is, the cap is the cap. The interesting thing about cap, mantle, and shelf, a mantle and a shelf and a cap are technically the same. However, the mantle word can be used to mean the entire surround, mantle, cap, lintel, legs, plinth blocks, and so forth when it's used in kind of a generic fashion. Shelf can mean a cap, or it can mean a cap and a lintel. So the only precise word that specifically identifies the part as the very top horizontal piece is called the cap. At HearthCo, many of our models have a cap, a lintel, capitals, legs, and plinth blocks. Those can all be in one piece, or they could be multiple pieces. Sometimes you have a cap but no lintel. Sometimes you have a cap and a lintel, no capitals. Sometimes you have a cap and a lintel with legs but no capital and no plinth block. So it will vary, and we're going to go over some of those things as we go along. But this word cap is a very specific term, and it means a mantle or a shelf with nothing else. As a general definition, the word overmantel is anything that goes on top of the fireplace mantle. So everything you see above the second cap in the middle there is part of the overmantel. It could just be as simple as a frame with a picture of grandma in it. There's no particular definition of what an overmantel might be. You may design an overmantel that includes a cap at the top. It has the cladding that you see pictured and the molding, which creates a design. Or it may have none of those things or only some of them. So we're going to go over those terms and show you exactly what they are. So below the cap, the background material that you see that looks like individual blocks or bricks or tiles is called cladding. That cladding is made from a material we call flat stock. Flat stock comes 1 inch thick in 48 and 72 inch lengths. It's available in heights of 6, 12, 18, and 24 inches. You're going to see 3 different areas on the terminology where we use flat stock. Flat stock's a very important element, and you're going to see it quite often. You notice the vertical lines. Those vertical lines were cut by the installer. They take a circular saw, put in a 1/4 inch depth, and they cut those vertical lines to be grout lines, and then they fill both the vertical and the horizontal lines with grout. The horizontal lines are created when the strips of flat stock are laid on top of each other. Typically for cladding, they use a 12 inch by 48 or 12 inch by 72, depending on how wide they want the overmantel. And then they put little spacers in to create grout lines, and then they cut the verticals with the circular saw and a masonry blade. So the cladding is the flat stock often referred to as filler. This explains what I just mentioned about how the vertical lines are created. Notice it also talks about plateau trim. Plateau trim is similar to flat stock, and it's used in a similar way, only the difference is it's 3 inches deep. So instead of 1 inch, it is 3 inches, and it's hollow, so it's not that heavy, and it can be used to create a recessed area. By using the plateau trim around the outside of the molding, and then using the flat stock on the inside of the molding, you get a 2-inch indentation, which has a very nice look. It's one of my favorite looks for over mantels. The molding. It's called molding here, but in the office we call it trim. And the most popular types are Corsica trim and Santa Barbara trim, excuse me. And it comes in various different sections. It comes in straight sections. It comes with end sections where it doesn't butt up against something and it just comes to a dead end. It has a finished end on it. It has corner sections that form a square corner, and it has radius sections. In this image, you can see that a radius section was flipped over and turned in to create the design that the corners have on this image. They could have been flipped the other way and it would have created more of a arched look. The radius comes in various different sizes, and you can create an entire arch. You can also create an extended arch. So the only limitation is your own creativity. Since it's such an important part of your mantle and surround, we're going to touch on the cap once again. Now we're looking at what is, in this drawing, a pinnacle cap. The cap may or may not have grout lines. One thing that you might note, anything that you order from HearthCo that can be ordered in a custom length will not have grout lines. Since no one knows how long you're going to order it, no one knows where the grout lines would go, the mold will not have any grout lines in it. If you want grout lines, however, they can be cut in the same way they're cut in with the cladding above. They just take a skill saw and set the depth to 1/4 inch and cut vertical grout lines in. The lintel. There are people who refer to the lintel as a breastplate. It's not a term we use. It is actually technically a lintel, so that's what we call it. I have heard masons, though, refer to it as a breastplate. So if someone uses that terminology, what they're talking about is the lintel. Occasionally, we have a design that has a centerpiece which is adjustable, and we referred to it as a stretcher. That stretcher is really a lintel, and we are changing the wording to be more consistent. Anything that appears below the cap that goes the length horizontally is a lintel. The lintel may be attached to the cap. It's possible that the cap, the lintel, the legs, and everything are all one piece. It may be separate, and there may be no lintel at all. Some of our surrounds just have a cap with legs attached. Some people just get a cap with no lintel. Some people get a cap and a lintel and use it as a shelf. So there's no limit to the varieties that you can design. Now, not listed here, but shown in the line drawing, on either side of the filler, the top portion of the leg, if it has a design, it's referred to as a capital. The capital might be the same piece as the leg. It might be a separate piece, just like the plinth block at the bottom. Might be attached or it might be a separate piece. All of our legs are designed to be cut to length. So in all cases, there's some area that you can cut to lower the height of the overall installation without affecting the design. That's why sometimes you'll find the capital as a separate piece. Other times you'll find the plinth block is a separate piece. And when it's all one piece, you'll find the plinth block is quite long, allowing you to cut and get the height that you want. Item number 8 is our flat stock again. This filler is used to trim around the inside. Flat stock is very handy stuff. I mentioned that it comes in 6 inch, 12 inch, 18 and 24 inch, we'll call it heights. And the length is either 48 or 72 inch. In our diagram here, the part that says filler, since it's long, might require a 72-inch piece. The two sides would only require a 48. One thing you want to know about filler, never try to get more than 2 cuts out of one piece. The difference in price between two 6-inch and one 12-inch piece is only $1. So it makes no sense to try to save money by getting a bigger piece and getting more cuts out of it. The reason for that is, let's say that you needed 3-inch pieces. You could take a 6-inch and get 2 3s out of it. You'd have a factory edge on each side. But if you took a 12-inch and tried to get 4 pieces out of it, 2 of the pieces would be center cut, so they would not have a factory edge. So in your design, remember the flat stock filler, don't ever get a piece big enough to get more than 2 cuts out of. All right, the legs. You would think that would be pretty universal. However, some people do refer to them as columns. They're not columns. Columns are quite a different thing. Columns, you think of the old Greek architecture with the huge columns that support the arenas and so on and so forth. Those are actual columns. These are legs. At the bottom of the leg is a plinth block. Now, as I mentioned, something is designed to be cut. So if you see a design at the top, a design at the bottom, and you know you're going to want to cut 3 or 4 inches out of the leg, you can rest assured that either the capital at the top or the plinth block at the bottom comes as a separate piece, so that you can cut a section of the leg out without affecting the design. In most cases, the plinth block would be what comes separate, but there are some models where the capital comes separate. The last thing about plinth blocks, which we around the office might call the plinth, just for short, is that you can order an extended plinth block. Let's suppose that the leg and plinth and capital are not long enough to give you the height that you want to achieve a particular design. You can order a part called a custom plinth, and that custom plinth will vary depending on the model that you choose, but you can specify how much taller you want your surround to be, and the custom plinth will be made to work with the design you have and raise it that amount. And now we're going to talk about hearths. In the picture, you'll see a picture of a raised hearth. This raised hearth is made up of a wooden box. It has flat stock for risers, and it has a flush hearth for the top. They're not all designed that same way. That's just how this one is. The interesting thing is, whether it's a raised hearth or a flat hearth that sits on the floor, the 2-inch portion that makes up the top is called a flush hearth. So a flush hearth can be used flat on the floor instead of a raised hearth. They come in 1 and 2-inch thicknesses. For sizes above 71 inches, longer than 71 inches, they're 2 1/4 inches thick, and that's for strength. That's because they have to support heavy mantels and surrounds, and they have to endure shipping. So a flush hearth can be used flat on the floor, or it can be used as a top section for a raised hearth, as it's shown here. Here down here at the bottom is the raised hearth. Okay, now the raised hearth components. This particular hearth that's shown could either be a wooden box with risers and a flush hearth for the top, or it could be a one-piece cast raised hearth. HearthCo is able to make a variety of different sizes of one-piece flush top raised hearths. You can order the specific sizes, and if it's too tall, you can cut them down in the field the same way you cut the flat stock, or you can cut the back off to make them less deep. There's also a mold which can be adjusted to produce a custom size, and those can be quite large. So you could order the exact height, the exact width, the exact depth that you want in a one-piece raised hearth. But let's suppose you want to do an entire wall and there's no one piece that's long enough. So one of the other options, or you want a fancy shape or something like that. One of the other options is you can create a wooden box. I say you can create it. You can also order it from HearthCo. You can give HearthCo the dimensions and they'll prefab the wooden box for you. For a top, you can either use a flush hearth that's the correct size to sit and cover up the wooden top and meet the flush risers that are coming up. Those risers are nothing but our famous flat stock. So the 1-inch flat stock goes around the bottom of the wooden box and goes up, and then the flush hearth extends out and it meets flush with the edges all the way around. So you can use flush hearth tiles. You can order a flush hearth one-piece actual flush hearth, or you can order bullnose hearth tiles. The difference in the bullnose hearth tile and the flush hearth tile is in the name. The bullnose hearth tile hangs over the riser and it extends down 2 inches. It gives it that bullnose look. So the riser is nothing but flat stock. So there's 3 places we've used flat stock. We've used them for the riser, we've used them to trim around the inside for filler, and we've used them to make the cladding. All right, so it could be a wooden box with hearth tiles on the top. It could have the facing can then be flat stock. You can use flush tiles or you can use bullnose. Well, I hope this short video has helped you understand the terminology of fireplace mantel components at HearthCo. I hope that you'll go on to look at all of the other videos in the series. They're numbered in the order that we recommend that you watch them. But if watching the videos doesn't work for you or isn't enough, feel free to contact me 7 days a week until 7 p.m. Arizona time at 928-595-2317. My name is Skip Bales. I'm the General Manager of HearthCo. Thanks for watching.